I call the work of hope. So what's on my slip of paper? Well, it's this. I am a suicide attempted survivor. I survived multiple odds. But I've been told I don't look like one. So I'm healthy, I'm vibrant, I'm a proud, early middle-aged, tax-paying homeowner. As far as privilege goes, I went to a university. I have access to credit. I have also health insurance. I have a great network. My parents, they're unbelievable, still together after 45 years. Miracle by today's standard. And my partner, he could not be more supportive. From a resume perspective, I was a successful leader for Hewlett Packard and LegalZoom. When I was 30, where's the click button? There we go. When I was 30, I made the executive rank at Hewlett Packard, making me at that time one of the few and youngest executives of color who ran multi-million-dollar businesses with teams around the world. Excuse me, I have a bad cough today. Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. Hi, you guys are so thoughtful. And as far as purpose and social impact goes, I was a Gates Foundation recipient, and the student success edtech startup that my partner and I founded was acquired in my late 20s by Inside Track. For you educators, you would know they're one of the leading nation's student coaching companies. So you look at this girl and you would say, she's doing great, right? And yet, what people didn't know was every so often, when I was sitting there alone on my couch, overlooking that $1 million city view, I was unable to bear it. I was unable to bear it. I knew doing that would probably end my life. But you know what? Compared to the shame, fine by me. Fine by me. So looks and bias may deceive, but the numbers don't lie. In the United States, we hit a record number last year. We know that. 63% of our kids today, 18 to 24, have reported anxiety, depression, or both. A quarter of them seriously considered taking their own lives. The numbers for us as adults, they're not any better. So we're now living in what I call an era of inner pandemic of unwellness. We have more people choosing to end their own life by choice, especially amongst our younger generation. Our kids need our help. Oh, I forgot the photos. Dee-dee, that was me, my 20s. All right. And so this is why 2 years ago, I decided to found Soul Seated Journey, a 501c3 public charity devoted to helping resilient youth and young adults in our low-income communities on their journey to wholeness, because we know that's what requires them to become great. And why I did that was because I started realizing, if you're a kid, if you're not out on the streets, if you're not in a foster home, or you're not in probation, you're forgotten. You're missed by the entire system. So that day, when I made that decision, I rescinded a C-suite offer that I had been entertaining, left everything I knew behind, and embarked on my journey, my call to adventure. The irony, if you guys haven't figured it out already, I still laugh about myself at this because I felt like, gosh, this is the cosmic joke that's being played on me. So I mentioned my job was transformational executive. So the responsibility, like my job is to see the possibility in absolute shit of a situation, okay? Carve out a new path and then harness the power of people to get it from point A to point B. And while I was doing that successfully for everybody else, I couldn't see a damn thing for myself, like nada. So the question is, so how does a timid Chinese immigrant girl full of self-doubt. Like, that was really me. Come to the United States to accomplish what most people would deem as successful, whilst escaping the doors of death multiple times, and then just come and give it all up. To be what? Well, you guys know, one of the sexiest role and most sought after, a not-for-profit treasure hunter. Thank you. Oh, my friends thought I fell off the rockers. So my story, let's finish my story. So my story begins in Taipei, Taiwan in Asia, where I grew up, a place that was and always will be filled with sweet memories and, if you haven't been, amazing food. Oh gosh, so good. From a very young age, my parents really wanted to instill in my sister and I a sense of real values. For them, this was very simple. 3 things. Easy to do, they say. First, character. Okay, not bad. Second, filial piety. Anyone know what that is? Filial piety? In the Chinese culture, it means respect your elders at all costs. Very difficult. I knew you would like that. And the third, importantly, the positive impact we would make for humanity. I remember one time when I was 10, my mother came up and said to me, and this is my nickname, Xiaowen, success is not about wealth, power, position. I really worry about you. From now on, you and your sister, you guys are gonna learn the real value of life from us. So she went on and on and on about how like the responsibility in life is to do the greatest amount of good for humanity. Stressing a little piece of wisdom that I didn't know at that time. She said, an enlightened being gives and creates blessings for themselves and for others. So, meanwhile, I will tell you, at this stage, I was 10. I had just immigrated to Malaysia. Sorry, going back in chronological time here. I just immigrated and I was attending my first international school, right? And I was really soaking up. Okay, this is me. Oh, there you go. I was really soaking up. Oh gosh, I'm so embarrassed by this photo. Okay. So I'm soaking up the best that American TV culture had to offer. Beverly Hills at 90210. I was dreaming what life was gonna be. I want to experience the real value of life, like my 2 favorite characters. Oh yeah, Donna Martin and Brenda Walsh. My parents, they had a totally different plan. You know where they took us? They took us out of our comfy couch. Oh, they weren't taking us to like Fiji or exotic, vacation spots like all of our other friends. Oh no. You know where we got to go? Orphanages. We got to go to disaster sites. Oh, and this one's good. The back of their factory. I felt my childhood was so robbed from me, I was like, God, how did I get refund? I got so lucky with these damn parents. Oh, gosh. Because according to the wisdom of my mother, the best vacations are these fields of blessings where you can grow and experience the value of life. So over the next decade, that's what they continue to do. They would continue to find opportunities for us as a family to give and sow love together. And so yeah, my spring break in college was not like in Cancun or Miami. I was going to like San Juan, Tepezontes, El Salvador. And so my father would emphasize time and time again, he would say, the Liu's family legacy, that our heirloom is not gonna be this passing down of fun coupons or like, our business. Don't forget about a fund. or our ancestors' artifact, it was going to be priceless. It was going to be eternal. It's going to be the lineage of compassion. And so that's what happened. In walking the talk, my parents called me when I was a freshman in university, and they said, "We did it. You get nothing." We have shut down our business, closed down our factory, and we're devoting our life to doing one thing: living simply to help others. Okay, the truth, you guys, sucked. Big time. I struggled, man. I did. Because here's the truth. There was a stark reality about the values that they had espoused, what we were shown, and what I experienced outside the four walls of our home. By the time I was 16, I had gone to 13 different schools. I had lived in Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, and now the United States. And you know what I experienced? Okay, softness. Okay, softness did not bring me friends. Softness, it invited bullies, and lots of them. I had all of them. I don't know, I just had a target on my head. Softness was the reason why I never got once picked for PE class. Open-heartedness, oh, that one's good. That one, pain, ridicule, humiliation. I still remember when my friend told everybody in grade school, in my class, my love for Neil Farrell. And how I would accidentally put my arm next to his so we could brush it next to each other during Mrs. Leong's math class. Oh, acts of kindness? Forget it. Acts of kindness, that had me sitting alone for the rest of the school year because I picked up my lunch to befriend the loner. So all these behaviors that my parents have encouraged me, and my sister, it had brought me shame, guilt, and the sense of, well, not good enough. What I had realized was that when I'm being me, no one wanted to be with me. And over time, I didn't really want to be with myself either. And here's the thing about not good enough. Anyone who've experienced the feeling of not good enough, it's like being on a damn struggle train every frickin' day to prove something. So in this hyperactivity of constantly filling that void, I was exhausted, unfulfilled, and completely disconnected from myself. I remember at 34, I was sitting there looking at, I had this 10-year plan. It was really important that I checked off every single box, right, type A. And I checked it off and I realized, I was like, oh my God, I checked off everything. I was ahead of schedule, yes. But the one thing I wanted gone that was not there, not enough, still there. So in that moment, I realized something. This wasn't it. There's more. But I was so afraid because why? The future is unknown. The past that I had slaved over. Okay, I was working for LegalZoom, and I just give you guys a sense. I was going back and forth between my team in Austin. I was racking up 100,000 miles for 2 years straight, flying domestic. That was everything I knew. I was ready to leave it. So just like that, with that realization of my stagnation, welcome midlife crisis. Looks like I was early for that one too. I guess I didn't even need to use my notes after all. Just make sure. Okay, so there we go. Fortunately, what I didn't know, the universe does. So the universe has this way of shaking things up, which leads to my first realization about what the courage of means, which in my words is doing the things that you know you're supposed to do without the universe kicking you in the ass to do it. And that's what they did. So on Friday, March 18th, 2018, There I was, Venice Beach, California, at a four-way intersection waiting to make a left when an SUV going full speed at 45 miles per hour came head-on hitting us. There was another car behind us, and so essentially we were a squash bug. On the way to the hospital and the paramedic's car, I begged the paramedic guy to please let me use the phone. I said, it's really urgent and important. It is a priority. The guy's like, oh God, yes, so you thought right. I picked up my phone and I called my boss. Not good enough at work. I said, oh, I'm not gonna be at work tomorrow, right? That's, even at that moment, crazy. So later, while I was settled in the ER, one of the cops came by and asked the question, hey, is this your car? We nodded, and the cop said, gosh, you guys are really lucky. In all my years as a car with a head-on collision like that, had the engine been in the front, the car would have blown up, and you wouldn't be here. At that moment, something hit me. I was like, oh my God, I could have really died. But this time it was different. It was like not my choice. And it made me realize I wasn't ready to go. And just like that, this no accident was a perfect crisis I needed to catapult me and do the thing that I know I needed to do but didn't have the courage. 6 months later, with my team set up for success, I turned in my badge at LegalZoom and against my then manager's thought, because LegalZoom is now IPO, we were a pre-IPO company, I had left all my equities on the table and I said goodbye. Which brings me to the second definition of courage. Courage is our heart's triumph over the mind's murmurings. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I didn't have a 10-year roadmap. I didn't have one day figured out. But I did it anyways. I knew that was the right thing to do. It turns out when we are desperate is a good thing. Desperate, we discover. And that moment for introspection, that opportunity, happens at every single age. It does. And I had this sense of urgency to really understand, because for the first time in my life, I was trying to love my pain. One of my mentees from Stanford was Kayla Williams. She started a nonprofit too. She said, love is one's ability and willingness to extend for themselves and other people's growth. How many of us actually go and extend ourselves for other people very easily, right? Everyone, yeah. How often do we do that for ourselves? I know I hadn't. And so there it was. I started my journey, so I was now really hungry. I was hungry to understand what's the success of being well, like in all facets, not just a few. This reminds me of my boss, he's still in front of me, he's like, gosh, you can take Tiffany out of business, you can't take the business out of Tiffany. So I was ready to crack the code on my car, bring it on. So that's what I did. For the next 18 months I traveled. I was desperate to understand. This time by choice. I traveled to Nepal. I went to some of the poorest countries because I really wanted to understand how people who are so materially deprived, so spiritually wealthy. I also traveled to study with the ancient ways with Peruvian Incan shamans to understand how does one live in harmony with themselves and with planet Earth, our only home. I also went to live in Nosara, Costa Rica. For all you guys know, it's not only a beautiful place, it's one of the 5 blue zones in the world. People there live over 100. And so the question becomes, well, what are the keys to unlocking longevity and health? My discovery also took me to Hualien, Taiwan, to live, study, and volunteer at a monastic charity with Dharma Master Chen Yen, who Times refers to as Mother Teresa of Asia, and she's also the leader of what they call the largest compassionate army in the world. They have over 10.5 million volunteers and is one of the UN's largest Buddhist humanitarian organizations. I really want to know, how do you inspire and mobilize 10 million people? My goodness. And so what I'm here to share with you now in summary is the top 3 things that I learned on that journey of discovery and how it inspired me to build Succeeded. The first is this: the path to joy, peace, and harmony is central to our experience of being alive and well. I think amongst treasure hunters today, it is time for us, and I love the word you used yesterday, galvanize. Oh, I love that so much. We need to take a stand and redefine what it means for these 2 words. Being alive is not just about us being able to breathe. It's about vitality, feeling hope, and feeling everything else so that we can actually feel to heal. Being well is not about success, power, or position. It's none of that. It's about that not at the expense of all these things. Because when it is, our potential is capped, and it's a struggle train, and you know what I'm talking about. It's hard. Right? You look at me, I went to great university, I was gainfully employed, I had all these things that stats say, and yet that didn't prevent me from being a statistics at 16, 18, and in my 20s. Without the knowledge, the tools, and the resources to know and build the foundation of what it means to be human, it's very difficult to navigate the challenges, the complexities, and the change of life, particularly for our kids. And we see that through in our work at Succeeded. Whether it's the healthcare system, the school system, or a social safety net, we don't provide adequate enough behavioral support for them to prepare for adulthood. Right? The prevalence of the depression, so anger inward, and the violence that we see now, anger outward, that's a failure of a system that fails to nurture empathy, altruism, and compassion. That's not on us, it's a system thing. Fortunately, there is an entire generation of educators, researchers, neuroscientists, and amazing treasure hunters such as yourself who are now discovering and unraveling the mysteries of what makes us thrive. Oh yeah, it's all these beautiful soft things like kindness and optimism, conscientiousness, courage, right? So there's hope. The second thing I learned is this path to joy, harmony, well, that starts with being authentic, being our authentic self. We talked about authentic connection yesterday. Well, that requires us. And just saying what I have my favorite thing, all of our human parts. So I have found in my own research and study and experience that this is true. That when we come back to who we are when we are a child, like our authentic self, that is the surest, cheapest way for natural wellness. Like, we have all experienced the unbridled joy of a child, right? For those who have kids. I know now that when I manifest my essence out here at the personality level, I am the same way. And when I do so consistently, I find flow in life. And flow, by the way, is that feeling when you're driving down, right, and you're just hitting green. You're like, hell yeah. Okay? And you want to know what the equation of flow is? It's this. Flow means following love over will. That's it. That's a big mystery. Flow, you want flow? You don't need to pay $10,000 for a flow peak performance class. Just follow love over will. That's it. That's what does it. So, where am I now? And why we say follow love over will. So the question becomes, why is that important? Well, where there's love, there is hope. So what is love? I love to emphasize this, which is, for me, love feels like it's like that caterpillar I talked about. It's like vulnerable and open. Have anyone like ever touched a caterpillar? Right? When you touch a caterpillar, it doesn't like puff up like the puffer fish, right? It also doesn't like shrink down. It just like stays right there. Because you know what? It knows one day I'm gonna turn into a damn butterfly. So joke's on you, girlfriend. You know? And love also is that part of us that recognize that, gratitude, right? Gratitude's that jam that opens up the door to joy. Oh yeah, and pain, oh, bring it on. Pain's a glimpse to our purpose. And, uncertainty, we don't like uncertainty. Love recognizes that that's a loose end that builds our resilience. My favorite, mess. Ooh, I like mess. Because that mess that was mine is now the biggest message I'm living to proclaim. The bigger the cause, the bigger the results. But I want to emphasize more than anything that love is like what we talked about yesterday. Love is weak and it is soft. Because we know that weakness is a great thing. And strength is nothing. When a man is born, what is he? He's weak and flexible, right? When a man is dead, he is hard and insensitive. Nature teaches us the same thing. You ever look at a tree? A tree is tender and it's pliant. But when it is dry and it's hard, it dies. Hardness and strength are death's companion. Pliancy and weakness, on the contrary, are the freshness of our beings. And why this is important is because when we're able to look through this lens of love, it is one very critical thing in the work of hope. It changes the way we look at problems to give us choices, more choices. And as educators, we know that choices are important because problems are never problems until you have the capability to solve them, right? And the question was, well, then what increases these capabilities? It's all those things like compassion and gratitude and generosity and joy, because those things open the aperture of our mind and increases the threshold of our heart so that we can what? We can let the wave of emotion be that wave of emotion in our ocean of being, right? That just expands that space so much more. So the question I think about is then what happens? Like when we look at our lives right now, ours, our kids, and our society, where is it and when is it do we get a chance to develop, nurture, and cultivate these capabilities? I spent so much of my time looking at 8 facets of wellness, and before I focused on intellectual, I had physical, nutritional, occupational. But what I lacked trumped me. Well, almost trumped me. And so while I've been really excited for the fact that, looking at solving this challenge there's been an explosion of wellness products and services. And even in the nonprofit space, there's just tons of organizations. But what do we notice? What do you see up there? We're all siloed. We're kind of in our own island, aren't we? The mind with the mind, body with the body, spirit with the spirit, community with community. And part of this also is that it's very difficult to access, particularly for underprivileged youth. And that's probably my guess is why we don't have many solutions today, because, well, they can't afford it. There's no money. Where's the money? And when I look at also, and that's why it doesn't represent holistic needs of our youth. It doesn't represent their experiences or their identities. And scalable technology solutions where I came from, well, forget it. They're not recognizing what you and I already know, which is the power of connection. So the third thing that I've learned, and the last thing that I've learned that is really important for me and in our work that we do for Hope, is that healing comes in the form of connections. And these connections look very differently. They could be, for example, for one of our kids, it could be an unlikely friendship that they developed by putting themselves out there as a queer. It could be, instead of having one ace, they could have like a whole village of aces, right? Guiding them and also expressing, just their greatness. When it comes to programming, these connections could be taking education, combining them with powerful modalities and varied services. And in the work of activating hope, these connections for us are the same. They're partnerships, collaborations. We are each other's missing puzzle pieces. We are each other's success equations. And so, in the 2 years that we've created the Youth Warrior Program, which I'll share here with a second, in Bayview Hunters Point, which is one of the most distressed neighborhoods in the San Francisco Bay Area, I really saw how the diversity of these connections can unleash, particularly the warrior spirit in our kids. So I'm gonna share just like a few of some of my favorite. This is after a 7-week weekend course where we are with them just for 2.5 hours, so not for a lot of time. Some of these messages are really powerful. I love this one. I believe in myself. I trust I have the power to decide what's best for me. This is a 14-year-old who wrote, I am who I am. My worth isn't based on my production. Mm-hmm. So for all of you guys who are driving change in the work of hope, I thought I would leave with these 3 very practical, indispensable steps to helping move from probability to possibility, whether that's in your work, in your life, or with your kids. The first is this: establishing a sense of urgency. These sound very simple, but difficult to do. How many of us are willing to lean into the edge and be desperate? Examine the mess to embrace the messiness, right? Like Magic School Bus. I think she was onto something. Forming a powerful coalition of like-hearted and like-minded people. Because this journey is tough and it's lonely, as Rick said. We need people. As diverse, the better. And then creating a vision and then communicating that. Creating a shared vision to guide the path, to illuminate the way, but most importantly, to create the vision from the place of our limitless self as we would a child. And so that's what we're doing now at Soul Seated. I like to think that that's what we're doing at Soul Seated now. We are initiating what I call a journey of metamorphosis for our kids to reveal their best selves. And we do so by encouraging authenticity, nurturing compassion, and then developing pro-social behaviors, the acts of helping others, as a way to help them cultivate a sense of belonging and connection within themselves and others in their community. And we do so by bridging the silos that you see, and then bringing people together, community providers, educators, right, CBOs, and even wellness practitioners and businesses to come together so we can actually be the resources for the visions of our kid. And I think that, and I believe that this is the big opportunity that I see, which is a new model. It's time for a cultural transformation where we come together as an ecosystem of aligned missions, partnerships, and deals. What if, when we have evidence-based programs that bring in frameworks like Kids at Hope, together powered with community-based partnerships, amplified by scalable peace technology, so that treasure hunters from different communities all around the world can help millions of kids. And I think this is what this is about. It's more than just a nonprofit or a concept. This is about a way of life. It's about a cultural transformation that we're here to take a stand to say we have to redefine what it means to be well. And the success is more than what we see. And that every kid everywhere deserves the knowledge, the tools, and the resources to live with a healthy mind, a whole heart, so they can actually lead an activated life, because our world needs it more than ever. I also like to think this is my little dream, which is okay, I'm a big Oprah fan, so I don't know if you guys watch Oprah Super Soul Sunday. Yeah, okay, I know, right? So I'm dang, girl, how'd she get all these amazing Super Soul Sunday team? I want that. How amazing would it be if we all had Oprah Super Soul Sunday as our life advisors and in our pocket? Okay, that's pretty cool. So that's why I'm doing this too. All right, so I want to share with you, so in terms of our program, this is just an example. Youth Warrior is, sort of the manifestation of what this is. It's evidence-based, it's expert-led, really focused on community-powered, whole-person wellness. I like to say that we're sort of like a conductor and orchestrator, of a symphony. We bring all the flutes and the oboes and the violinists and everybody come together to bring this beautiful symphony so that our kids can actually listen and play to that. And so when thought about, well, how would you describe, this is what one of our kids said Youth Warrior is to them. Is there a way to turn the volume up on this one? I'll put my mic here? Okay. Oh. Sorry, technical difficulties. Yeah.
There you go. So, to me, the Youth Warrior program is a program where people of the adulthood community, mainly also people around the Bayview, but we all come together and
You guys hear? Well, sorry, I was in tech, but I don't know how to do anything about it. So,
you gotta have the equipment.
Yeah, I was spoiled. So I just want to show some results because I know it's okay, this stuff is great, but okay, what is it? Okay, so last year was our first year. We launched a proof of concept. And we saw overall positive increase across all 8 areas from stress management, relationship skills. And we thought, okay, I think this is we're onto something. So then this year, we just wrapped up about a month ago, we also saw positive increase across all 5 areas. And the thing with Youth Warrior is that we really go in to understand what is the collective theme that's happening right there. And through the work with community, we find the right people, whether it's organizations or partners, to then really come together. The other thing is we started to look at the program impact. We asked the kids, and 93% of them thought the program was helpful and useful, and 86% agreed it's been life-changing. And because we have so many educators today, at the request of our kids, I have to put also this slide. 100%, oh, hold on. Oh, did it go? No. Oh, there. 100% of our participants agree that if their school offered a program like this, they feel more motivated, engaged, and cared for. That's the importance of social, emotional, and spiritual learning. that's not what I'm most excited about. I want to show you some of these before and after photos. On the last week, we asked them to draw a picture depicting what it was like, and this is what I saw. Sad to happy. Lost it now. And by the way, I first thought it was a chicken on the left-hand side. I was asking my friend, I said, is that a chicken? Like a chick looking back? He's like, no, dude. It's like, that's hair covered. And then now it's like this. I said, oh gosh, okay. I'm not artistic. And this one, so hard to pick. This one is one of my favorite too. A seed in a pot. If you couldn't see what it says free soul and blossom. And so here's the thing to wrap things up is that, you see, we all come into this world in a body with our heartaches, heartbreaks, and lots of headaches. And not one of us, rich, poor, educated, non-educated, black, Caucasian, white, Latino, are exempt from the human conditions and this experience of feeling hurt. Each of us have been hurt to a degree or another, and that damage has caused us to lash out at ourselves and each other. And this hurt becomes this vicious cycle. But the society, and sometimes we tell ourselves, that living well, being well, doing well, means that we have something to show for it. And you look at my story, you would not think that I would struggle with mental health. And yet the only thing that's keeping me from doing well today is by focusing on building and creating these blessings that my mom talked about before, right? And those are the things that, unfortunately, I cannot show you today. And, when I think about that, I think about how important it is, right, for us to nurture love. And this is why I think it's so important for us to really take a stand to prioritize love and to put humanist before and after everything else. Because if we don't do that, and we don't know how to nurture compassion, then we cannot self-advocate. Then we would not be able to empathize with another person and recognize the injustice that is around us. And if that doesn't happen, then we will not be able to become a positive change in the world. And then things would remain just as is, unable to break out of this dangerous cycle that I see, which is anger inward and violence outward. So to conclude today, I would finish up with a story that is just an old Hindu legend. It's very short, but I think it brings it together. So there is a long time ago, once upon a time, the humans were gods. But we abused our divinity so much that Brahma, the chief god, decided to take it away and hide it. Now, where to hide the divinity was the question. So Brahma brought the council of gods together, and then they said, okay, where to hide? The gods said, let's bury it into the earth. But Brahma answered, no, that's not going to do, because they're just going to dig it up. All right. Then the gods said, well, then let's sink it into the deepest ocean. But Brahma answered, no, dude, that's not going to work. I didn't think he talked like that, but that's how I interpret it. No, dude, that's not going to work, because they're just going to dive and then they'll get it anyways. Then the god said, well, then let's hide it atop the highest mountain. He said, that's right. Nah, dude, that's not going to work too, because they'll eventually climb and then take up their divinity. And the guy's like, well, we don't know what to do, because it seems like there's no place, on earth that the humans will not reach. So Brahma thought for a long second, and he said, all right, here's what we will do. We're going to hide their divinity in the center of their own being. For sure, they will not find it there. The gods agreed, and the deed was done. From that point on, the humans, what we've been doing, climbing up and down, climbing, excavating, searching for something that's already been within us this entire time. So to that end, in closing, I ask of this. Sometime this week, while it's still fresh, or while you are here, Please find in your imaginary slip of paper and write down what is hidden. What have you been hiding? Love it, celebrate it, honor it. Because that's your path to blessing. That's your catalyst to transformation. Second thing, please find an amazing photo of yourself when you were a child that represents your essence, and please share it with everybody here. We need it. We want that authenticity. And last but not least, find your Care Bears. Make a connection. Do not leave this conference, this amazing opportunity, without making a connection, forming a partnership, and importantly, conspiring to great accomplishments, to do kindness and generosity and innovation, because that is what makes us divinely human. Thank you so much.